we're introing this just a different way, it's because I'm stuck on the East Coast, wasn't at practice. Brad has been at the last few practices. This is State of the Franchise training camp wrap up all together. But I would be remiss starting this on my own and talking about this without talking to the guy who was actually at the practices. Brad, the first thing I want to say to you is before we get into this, and I want you to tell me every minute detail, no matter what it is, like what guys were wearing, what their swag looked like, what were they doing, how did they warm up. I wanted to say thank you again for your usual amazing commentary and coverage of camp. We got ourselves a new Brad GIF out of it. If you guys haven't seen, Sam Houston's was, yeah, exactly. It's so anytime there's a good throw or anything like that, we're gonna post those, anything like that. Yeah, it was the Officer Brad GIF that we've been given. And more than anything, like jokes all aside, man, thank you so much for continuing to be the level-headed person that you are. Yes, a fan of this team, but also a fan of the commentary and everything that we should be listening to. So again, thank you in a phenomenal job this time again.
Jason, that was
Yes.
quite the intro, man. That was very nice, and I appreciate all the kind words. We missing you out there. It's not the same without Jason Aponte next to Jordan Elliott and I. So we've been missing you, man. You've been in there. You've been there with spirit. We've been definitely echoing the great Rich Madrid all throughout training camp. So it's been a blast, but I appreciate that. And
well, let
we
me
have
ask
some
you a
more stuff
question.
pop off
Yeah,
today.
no, let me ask you a question real quick. Jordan and I, and this is for the people that have, been close to us, hanging out, things like that. Jordan and I do the Rich Madrid voice a ton. Where are you at with how much you're using the Rich Madrid voice now, or curb quotes, stepbrother quotes, whatever it is that Jordan and I are doing, like to incorporate 49ers stuff? Where are you now? And I think the Rich Madrid quotes are more prominent than others.
The Rich Madrid quotes live rent free in my head. Like
Right,
it's
man.
seeped into it's escaped just football stuff. I'll be sitting there with my kids and they'll do something ridiculous and I'll just in my head it's like your guys' voice because I hear it through you or Jordan the most, even straight from Rich, but it just comes out like Christ, man. Like
No,
oh
man.
my gosh. It's never gonna leave me at this point.
That's good. And that just means that we've spent a ton of time together, which is the best part. And that let that be the last time that I come to camp and don't stay for the entirety of camp. But I'm gonna start with this. Everyone wants to know, and I want to know, how did Trey Lance look today? After coming off the spectacular practice that he had, and coming off a practice that he wasn't necessarily great in. Some would say bad, but he was great yesterday. How was he today?
I really liked what I saw from Trey Lance, and I think it's more because we understand what the baseline with Trey Lance is, right? He's going to be inconsistent. He's going to make good throws. He's going to make some questionable throws. And what we're trying to find is that even ground and kind of the consistency within that. It felt like the last 2 days, you get the sense from him that he just feels more comfortable. He feels more confident. He feels like you just get this vibe from him that he had that really bad practice, quote unquote bad practice on Sunday. There's a lot of made of it on Monday, comes back and rebounds as a great practice on Tuesday, and then comes back today. Maybe not the phenomenal completion percentage that people tend to kind of judge training camp practices off of, but you just got the sense and the feel that he's starting to kind of settle down a little bit because you were there at the beginning of camp. You could kind of sense he would have his moments where he would look good, but it was like this kind of back and forth. It feels like it's starting to even out, even if he didn't complete a pass or something, didn't go his way. Didn't feel like it faced him. It just like on to the next. Let's keep rolling. So the last two practices that I saw from Trey Lance, including today's practice, it has built more confidence in me, in him, that he's going to be okay. And the biggest thing with these young rookie or not rookie, he feels like a rookie, but he's not a second year player, It's just how do they bounce back? And he's continuing to bounce back. He's continuing to fire, and I think that's the biggest thing that we've been able to see from Trey Lance up until this point.
Yeah, and I think that I don't want to grandstand or anything like that, but I think that you and I have been able to watch him over 2 training camps now. And I think the one thing that we can walk away saying is yes, the kid never is super phased by anything. He always seems to have the right mentality, and that is half the battle. And there's so much more that goes into being the San Francisco 49ers quarterback than just on the field. Again, I will point out the San Francisco 49ers quarterback position is a landmark position in sports, like point guard of the Lakers, shortstop for the Yankees, whatever, center, wherever Wayne Gretzky played, like that type of attention. And the fans are used to a certain standard. And this isn't just to Trey Lance. Jeff Garcia had to deal with it. Alex Smith had to deal with it. Jimmy Garoppolo had to deal with it. Colin Kaepernick had to deal with it, by the way, on the shirt. If you guys can't see. Every single San Francisco 49ers quarterback will have to deal with this. But then when you add in the 3 first-round picks, what was added, and who he is replacing, there is this scrutiny on him. There's this scrutiny on him. Yeah, you can hear Avery in the back. But yeah, it's more about that than it is what we're actually evaluating. And what I mean by that is an incompletion doesn't mean a bad rep, and a completion doesn't mean a good rep. And I've said that many times. What is going on? All right, go. You got it, Brad. You're muted, buddy.
There we go. We're getting it back on the tracks as the train rolled by earlier. Trey had 4 passes today. It felt like in the first team period, they were trying to get these deep throws kind of around 30 to 40 yards outside the numbers towards the right sideline. They went after it 4 times in the first team period, and 2 of those would have been pass interference calls. So it comes across as an incomplete, but it would have been pass interference by the defensive back. So that kind of skews the context of the completion percentage. Then you had one where Trey Lance threw a great ball, and you had 3 guys around Deebo Samuel, probably about 40 yards downfield as he's angling out of bounds. And it wasn't an easy catch, but it hit him in the hands, wasn't able to bring it in. I consider that to be a drop. And then on the 4th one, he had one where he kind of angled it more upfield. So that one felt a little bit more off. But in the context of it all, there's 4 incompletes, but 2 of them would have been pass interferences. One of them was a drop. And then you could argue that one was a little bit off target. But for the most part, you could see that they were clearly trying to attack a certain part of the field in this team period, and they're going after it. So completion percentage is something that it's nice to reference, but it does not even tell the full story, and it's not even close.
And let me say this to Brad's point. Trey Lance throws a ball that's beautifully thrown. Deebo Samuel catches it in his chest, and Emmanuel Mosley punches it out at the last minute. It's an incompletion. Oh, but he's 0 for 1. Where's the context? Trey Lance throws the ball that's a little bit higher. Brandon Ayuk snags that thing out of the air. He's 1 for 1. Oh, but where's the context? Again, there's no completion percentage that is going to tell me his progress. And I don't want to sound like this, but if you're not seeing it, if you're not seeing what he's doing, what are the situations around him? Where the guys covered? Did he throw it where his guy had a chance to get it? Was the defense in his face? All of those things matter. And by the way, training camp is the only time that people use preseason, whatever it is, numbers against people. Because in spring training, a guy goes 0 for 31, and they're like, he'll get him in the regular season. And that guy in the first at-bat hits a home run, and nobody's talking about spring training. Something about training camp has people up in arms. And you know what else is funny? The guy that everybody has proclaimed as the best quarterback of this class, Mac Jones, is going into his second year. I implore you guys to check those training camp numbers and those reports because they ain't good. And I don't want to hear it. In the same way that many people, not the people that are watching our show because they're damn smart, many people that watch and they say, well, look at Mac Jones and what he did. Look at Trey Lance's numbers. But Mac Jones is going into his second year, and you guys are cool with just saying, well, new play caller, offensive line's a little bit off. Oh, they don't have a running game. It's all this context for Mac Jones. But when it comes to Trey Lance, you know what, man? It doesn't matter if Trent Williams or Mike McGlinchey didn't play. It doesn't matter if Deebo Samuel's not been there. It doesn't matter that these are his first extended reps in his time. Funny how that works. So again, ask yourself this question if you're watching this. Do you want to be right or do you want to get it right? And that's the best way to put it. Do you use information to change your thought process, or are you so stuck in your ways and what you want to be right about that you're rigid? That's embarrassing, in my opinion. I'd rather go to people and say, you know what? I projected this. This is what I've seen. This is where it's different, as opposed to he's trash. He can't do this. He can't do this. He can't do this. No one ever tells you how someone can improve. They just tell you that they know that they won't improve. And that's the weirdest part of this to me.
And I agree with that. And that's why I love the draft process, because I'm big on evaluation. You're evaluating what a player could be. You're evaluating what he is right now, but then you're also having to look 2-3 years down the line. So you have to try to look and try to see, okay, this particular player isn't good in this area, but we understand if he reps it and he gets more specialized technique in this regard, he will get better, and that could completely change his game. And you can make that same argument with Trey Lance. He needs reps. We've been saying it since the draft process. Everyone references how many throws Trey Lance has made in college. Everyone. Like when you talk about all leading up to the draft. So we understand. So everything with Trey Lance needs to be viewed through a lens of development. He's not a ready player to go right now, but he is ready to develop, and he's continuing to make those strides. So that's been one of the best things that I've been able to take away from training camp and evaluating Trey Lance this whole time. 49ers Daddy said, did Trey have an INT today? One report had that. I didn't see the interception. I even want to go try to find some reports that would have it as well. I'm not seeing it. I didn't see an interception. He almost kind of had one there, but it was broken up. I didn't see anything that was an interception today from Trey Lance. For the most part, he was pretty clean. Other than a pass breakup here or there, Trey Lance was pretty good today for the most part.
That's good to hear. And again, interceptions, whatever you want to look at that, that's fine. And someone just said that the 49ers gave up more for Trey Lance than the Saints gave up for Ricky Williams. I just want to reiterate and just go over that trade just real quick. First, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round picks in the 1999 NFL draft. Also, their first, third in the 2000 drafts. No, nowhere near. They gave up an entire draft in 99 for Ricky Williams. Not even close. Thank you for playing. You're wrong. All right, Brad, I'm going to ask you another question. Defensive players today. I mean, we found out today Charvarius Ward is injured. Emmanuel Mosley injured. Fine. I don't care. And let me just get this out there real quick. Don't matter. Get them for week 1. Don't care. They don't need to play in the preseason. Don't care.
Right.
If you have to put them in a hyperbolic chamber, good. Fine. Don't care. They don't need to practice. We've seen them. At camp, they've been clamps. Don't care. Don't need it. But today, defensively, who stood up?
Yeah, so really quickly, Steven says right here what happened to Ward. Ward is dealing, I believe, with it was a quad strain or a hamstring strain. One of the two. It does sound like he'll be out for a couple weeks, which means he probably won't be playing against Green Bay, probably won't be playing against Minnesota. At this point, get Charvarius Ward ready for the year. Same thing with Emmanuel Mosley. So that means we saw a lot of Ambry Thomas today. But I do got to shout out Samuel Womack. Samuel Womack had a great PBU in move the ball period. Trey Lance was targeting Jawan Jennings, tried to fit the ball over the middle. He had really tight coverage from Samuel Womack. He was able to jump up and deflect the pass. Samuel Womack continues to flash. I don't watch Samuel Womack religiously. I'm definitely locked on the offensive line and following those types of things, but I would be lying if I said he hasn't flashed every single day of training camp, and he has been consistently rotating with the ones. So Samuel Womack, the 5th round pick out of Toledo. I was thinking about the other day, man, like the 49ers, starting to see this draft class start to develop. Obviously, Drake Jackson is another defensive player who is really coming along too at his own pace, but he is definitely showing signs. But then you look at TDP, you look at his development, you're seeing Spencer Burford get better every day. Then Samuel Womack starting to emerge. Like this draft class is starting to look pretty good. But a couple guys I know, our good pal Jordan Elliott was tracking Kamoko Toure today. I think he tracked Kamoko Toure having 4 or 5 sacks. So Toure has had a phenomenal camp, continues to show that he is got this great outside speed counter spin move to the inside that he wins with consistently. So he had a good day. Charles Omenihu had a good day. Javon Kinlaw continues to look primed and ready to go on that interior. The defense looks like the defense, man. Didn't look like they missed too much of a step without any of those guys. And Angel saying it right here. Charles Omenihu, who sounded like a beast today, he has stacked together 3 really good practices. He ended the day with a sack on Trent Williams. Again, he feels like he's going to be that kind of Arden Key this year. I think he can be even better than what Arden Key was last year. So the defense, again, even their depth has definitely been tested early on the defensive line in the backfield. But the defense continues to take strides forward for sure.
And I think that's the easiest thing to set your watch to. And it's funny. Jimmy Garoppolo's the quarterback, but the 49ers continue to run the ball and play defense. Trey Lance is the quarterback, but somehow you feel like that's going to change in any way. And I would even argue they'd run the ball more at this point. The defense is in the same spot to keep people close. Go for it.
We're seeing more Trey Lance with the legs, man. We remember we've talked about this earlier. We talked about this throughout camp. We're like looking back at last year's camp. We're like, Trey Lance was running wild last year, and we really hadn't seen a whole bunch of that. We saw a lot of pocket passing, right? A lot of statuesque in the pocket, those types of things.
I think that was by design. I think that was Kyle trying to make, like, I don't know.
To figure out what he had.
And I forget who it was. It was Steve Young, actually. And Mike Shanahan actually, what was it? He banded his legs together so he couldn't move out of the pocket to teach him how to throw in the pocket. That kind of felt like that.
Don't move, man.
Right. And you know what's funny? Is the days that he had his best days, NFL Network was at camp. Last year, we're talking about. And those were the days they ran zone read. And the defense, which was top 3, was standing there spinning their heads trying to figure out where the ball was. So just because they're getting him to work on something in training camp doesn't mean that that's what you're going to see during the season.
Exactly. And we started to see more of those designed kind of gap scheme quarterback runs up the middle. We started to see zone read keepers up the middle. He clearly knows how to run the football. He understands how to run behind his blockers, set up blockers, do all those types of things. So we're starting to see that slowly kind of emerge into the offense. And it feels like when we talk about Trey Lance being comfortable, it kind of feels like it is also giving him a sense of comfort. You know what I mean? To be able to get in there, do what he wants to do. But we're starting to see him emerge as a runner. Again, he had a phenomenal run yesterday. It blew by the entire defense.
Can I ask you
And
real
then
quick? And
today,
this is
yeah,
just my opinion. This is just my question and your opinion. Some had it as a 65-yard touchdown. Some had it as someone would have run him down and touched him. What is it?
I had him as Talanoa Hufanga snagging him. But
Okay.
again, it was a tag off. So you could still make the argument forward momentum. Trey breaks the tackle. I'll say this: Trey Lance beat 49ers defenders on an angle to the edge. He
So
blew past them.
if it wasn't 65, what was it then? 40?
Uh, if it was a tackle, yeah, it would have been about a 45 yarder. But again, Talanoa just flashed out of nowhere. You see Trey run past these 49er defenders, and all of a sudden there's Talanoa Ufanga, and you're like, where the hell did this guy come from? I looked at it like a tag off. Like I looked at because it looked like Talanoa Hufanga came up, kind of tapped him on the hip, and then just kind of let him go. I didn't call it a touchdown, and I've even been quick. I've had a quick trigger finger on Twitter when I've called things a touchdown that I feel are touchdowns. But this one, I couldn't, because I was like, I saw Talanoa, like I saw him right there. So Talanoa came out of nowhere, looked like he tagged him off. But again, you could still argue it was a touchdown, but it was a good play nonetheless by both the players.
And if it's a big gain, who cares? And I think that's where we're at right now. I'm gonna turn this to a group that, while I was at camp, was turning it up. And it sounds like, from all accounts, is still turning it up, the running back room. Some would say that Trey Sermon had his best day today. And I could have said that 3 practices ago.
Yeah.
What did you see from the running back room today?
The running back room just continues to prove that it's deep, and Trey Sermon did have a really good practice today. Trey Sermon is running with conviction. He's running decisively, something that he did not do last year. You go back to that Green Bay game that actually you and I were at. Trey Sermon was the lead back in that game, and you could see he was missing hole after hole, cutback after cutback. It was just a really hard go for Trey Sermon. He still came out with a good stat line, but he left a lot of yards on the field. Today, you get an example of him running to the right. You see the offensive line blocking beautifully, and he reads the cutback and sticks his foot in the ground, gets north-south, and gets a lot of good yards out of it. So those are the things that you wanted to see from Trey Sermon last year, and we're starting to see it this year in training camp. And so, again, as someone who felt a little duped by Trey Sermon last year, like thinking like he was going to be this workhorse back that the 49ers had been looking for, and then gets completely jumped by Elijah Mitchell. And Elijah Mitchell is still the running back 1, but Trey Sermon is definitely, like, I had questions coming into this, like, is he going to get cut? Is he going to make it? Like, because it just felt like he was a doghouse candidate, felt like he got buried. They draft TDP. But we understand how it is. The running back position takes a big pounding, and that means a lot of injuries. So you want to have more guys back there than not enough. And right now they're in the boat of having too many guys that are definitely capable of making the roster. And Trey Sermon is definitely making it. I think he's going to make the cut. I don't think it's much of a question anymore. And he did have a really good practice today.
I'm nervous that Jordan Mason won't make the cut, and it's not because Jordan Mason doesn't deserve to be here. It's just because these guys have stepped up. Even Jeff Wilson. I mean, you can give me a little bit more insight when it comes to Jeff Wilson, who was listed on the first depth chart as number 2, something that they've kind of said over and over. And I don't think that Jordan Mason will be cut because he's not worthy. I think that Kyle has his guys, and he knows what he wants to trust with certain guys. You can trust Jeff Wilson in pass pro. They even used him as a fullback last year, moved him around and asked him to block. So what I'm afraid of is not that Mason will be cut because he's not worthy. He's been, in my eyes, and Brad, you can disagree with me. I was there for a few days, not as many as you. The most consistent day-to-day running back. Every day, Jordan Mason was good. Every day. There was nothing that Jordan Mason did bad. Trey Sermon dropped balls. Jermichael Hasty was getting caught behind the line. TDP was fumbling snaps. Jeff Wilson didn't show burst. Elijah Mitchell was just whatever. But every day, Jordan Mason made a play that we all looked at each other like, oh man, who was that? And if it's a running back that made a big play, usually we all looked at each other and we said, that was Jordan Mason. So if Jordan Mason doesn't make this team, sorry, Justin, and this isn't anything that I'm backtracking on, has nothing to do with the fact that Jordan Mason isn't worthy. It's the fact that there's a trust factor, and a lot of these guys have stepped up lately in practice. You start to see it pick up a little bit more. So would you disagree with that in any way?
I would not disagree with it. I mean, it's literally just a log jam. It's a numbers
Mm-hmm.
game at this point. And Jordan Mason, again, he had another good run today. You can tell when guys have a feel in the mix, like when they're just bodies moving and they somehow find their way, like they can anticipate angles. That's the biggest thing that I think has impressed me about Jordan Mason is he can anticipate an angle. So then he's able to time his cut properly. And I saw a perfect little run that he had today where he just kind of slithered through a bunch of trash on the interior. And you're just like, wow, this guy, he just has it. Like he has the feel for the position. He knows how to run when it's disgusting. He's been consistently running with the threes. So it's not like he's had a phenomenal offensive line in front of him. He's had to do a lot of creating on his own. But yeah, man, it's just a numbers game at this point. And TDP continues to have play really well. Mitchell is playing well. Trey Sermon's playing well. They love Hasty out of the backfield. I think Hasty had a big touchdown run today for like 55 yards.
Thought I saw you tweet that.
Yeah, so Hasty had a really good run today for a big touchdown, and they like him as a pass catcher out of the backfield. So I keep talking about it. It is I don't envy anyone who's cutting the final 53 because all these guys are showing that there's a role to be had and they can be had, especially in the scheme. So it's going to be interesting to see, but you're starting to see guys pull away. So we'll see what happens with I really think it comes down to Jeff Wilson, JaMychal Hasty, and Jordan Mason, and we'll see what they take away from that. I wanted to get to this one really quick before we let it go too long. Gray Fox says, hello, shall we be concerned about Charvarius Ward? He's had a few injuries since he signed up with us.
Nope.
What do you think, Jason?
I'm not too worried about it. Again, I don't need to see anything from Ward or Mosley. Mosley was the best cornerback in this room last year. Ward is that guy. He's been that for the Chiefs, and during camp, he was clamps. Get him to week one. I don't care. Get him to week one. Get those guys to week one. Get Bosa to week one. Get Warner to week one. Those guys don't need reps. I don't need to see anything in the preseason or in any sort of practice from guys that I know what they are. If none of those guys played, any of them, Jimmy Ward, none of them. If none of them played, the only guy that I want to see get reps right now is Javon Kinlaw, because I want to see Kinlaw get back in there, get his pads popping again in live game situations. But I don't care. I don't care. Get them ready week one. Have them show up to Soldier Field on September 11th and get them ready to play. They'll be fine. Not worried about it. They don't need reps.
Absolutely. So I agree. I'm not worried about Charvarius Ward, especially with the severity of the injury. Put him on the shelf and get him ready for week one. We don't need him for preseason. He's already proven he's got a continuity and he understands the defense. Just put him on the shelf. We don't need to get any injuries going.
All right, Brett. Today we got some news. Someone was waived. Someone was signed. Leon O'Neal was waived. Ken Crawley, who last played with the New Orleans Saints, cornerback, was signed. First, give me your thoughts on Leon O'Neal. I've got my own thoughts on that. And then give me your thoughts on what this Ken Crawley signing means in terms of chances to make 53 or just being a guy who is there to help them run practices.
Yeah, first, Ken Crawley, you got your first two starting cornerbacks out right now. They just need to get some bodies in there, especially with the preseason game coming up. So doesn't feel like he's really going to make the roster. Definitely just feels like they need someone to get in there. The thing with Leon O'Neal Jr., I'm not terribly surprised.
I'm not either.
He was we were talking about it. I think we both believed that Taylor Hawkins, the other undrafted free agent safety out of SDSU, was having a much better camp. It felt like Leon was pressing a lot. I think he had some ability, but it just felt like kind of like what we saw from Ambry Thomas a little bit last year, just kind of one step behind on a lot of things. And then, I'm sure it didn't help where he, kind of mentioned his injury that he had
On
and things like
Twitter, I didn't
that.
like that.
So one thing leads to another. We find out that he's been waived. So it's a tough break. A lot of people were rooting for Leon. He had a lot of fans already in this fan base that wanted to see him be successful and earn a 53-man spot on the roster. Doesn't feel like it's in the cards this time around. We'll see how it's going to continue to play out, see if he somehow makes his way back on the practice squad. But right now his time has come to an end. And but a big part of that, I think, had to do just they needed cornerback depth too, on top of the fact that it did sound like he was going to be injured for at least a week. So kind of had to make a move there.
I don't want this to come off disrespectful in any way. I think that everyone agrees that they love the kid's motivation. They love the kid and the way that he talked about, the me against the world. I'm like that. Tell me I can't do something, I'm gonna do it. Say that I didn't say something right and I said it right. I'm gonna show you that I didn't. Like
Jason's pulling out all the receipts on y'all.
I'm very much I told you so. So I love that energy. Trust me when I say that I love that energy because that's how I'm built. At the same time, I'm not terribly surprised either that he was cut. I mean, I've looked at Brad many times during camp and said, Leon's in trouble. And it's just in one-on-ones. He lost one-on-ones reps. And then I think the biggest clue into what was going on with Leon was there's that drill of, there's a guy holding the ball. There's two guys left or right, and he gets to choose where you go. And you're in single high. And when he chooses that spot, you got to move, right? You throw it that way to the right. Jimmy Ward takes one step and goes. Hufanga, one step goes to the left. It felt like something about the way that they would say that he was in like almost quicksand, like moving, like it almost took him.
It was like a processing thing to actually process it to execute. Was like
it almost took about 2 or 3 steps for him to move in one direction. And that was when I was like, okay, this is a problem. Like this is something that Tarvarius Moore is coming off an ACL injury. But when he was in those drills, he stepped and moved. And he's a guy who can turn his hips and move the other way. Leon O'Neal isn't incredibly straight up like athletic. So he had to like play with that sort of instinct. That's what Hufanga is doing so well right now. Like and I don't want to disrespect the kid because his work ethic was there. Everything that he was doing was right. Everything that he was saying was the right thing. I do not want to disrespect this kid in any way. And yes, yesterday I did not like the way that he was addressing things on the internet, going on Instagram. It almost felt like you already knew this was coming and you wanted to lay out some sort of excuse. And I don't like that portion of it. But I'm not going to get in that man's head because it must be tough to deal with those things. And the last clue that I had that something was wrong with Leon, he gives up a catch and he tries to punch the ball out at the end when the play's done, like it's done. And it almost starts a fight. That to me screams frustration with the way you've been playing. Look, regardless of your motivations, anything like that, this is a results-driven game, okay? In the right spot, I had the right coverage, cool. Catch the ball on you for a touchdown, results. Like, that's the thing. So, Leon, I don't think he's done in this league in any way. I don't think he's done with this team necessarily. But it's not terribly surprising to see that he had to go, especially when you start to hear about this injury. That's it.
Yeah, I would agree. Not terribly surprised. It's kind of like a 50-50. I was like, oh, wow, they really did that. But also at the same time, understanding the injury and the issues at cornerback depth. Totally get it. Totally get it.
All right, Brad, let's talk offensive line because that's why everybody's here. Nobody's here to see me Nobody's here to see me yell about like a bunch of stuff. Let's talk about offensive line. Who
Let's do it.
is the surprise offensive line guy for you? And I think I kind of know the answer because I'm going to lean this way as well, too. Who's the guy who continues to dominate while he's here at camp?
I mean, Spencer Burford is the first one to jump out just
Bing, bong,
because,
boom.
I watched his tape coming out of UTSA, and I was like, this guy doesn't look like a tackle to me. Like, he looks like a guard. When players draft someone or a team drafts someone at a certain position, you kind of think like, okay, they're going to draft them to be a tackle. And it just was like one of those, like, he doesn't look like a tackle, and they moved him to guard, and he's fit right in. He has all the prerequisite athletic ability that you want from an interior offensive lineman, including the size, the arm length that he has. One critique that I would give him is he is still trying to find that balance when it comes to anchoring and pass protection.
Mm-hmm.
He can get bull rush a little bit, but hey, who doesn't on the offensive line? Let's be perfectly honest. So it's just being more consistent at stopping the bull rush. But other than that, I think Spencer Burford, the 4th round pick out of UTSA, continues to show that he's more than capable to start in this league. He's got the speed, he's got the foot quickness, he's got the power behind it, and he's got the mentality. And I think that's one of the biggest things why he's able to just really step in and hold it down. So Spencer Burford, man, has been a whole lot of fun to watch. And he feels at home with that offensive line. Like, it doesn't look out of place. Like, it still feels like Aaron Banks is almost trying to find his footing a little bit more than Burford is. And, Banks has had a whole year in the system. So Burford has definitely been the biggest surprise on the offensive line.
Yeah, it's Burford starting at right guard. Like, it's a done deal at this point.
Yeah,
A lot of what I saw while I was there, it's absolutely true. Like, a lot of what I saw there, I was impressed by. But and I hate to bring this up because this sounds stupid, but back me up. And if I say something crazy, Brad, just be like, man, shut up, man. Like, nobody cares.
Oh, come on, man.
Come on, man. What are you even talking about? Who cares, man? Spencer Burford in press conferences carries himself in a way of a guy who, I know this is my job. I know this is my spot, and I'm very confident. Now, look, everybody can talk the talk, but he's talking the talk while walking the walk. And a lot of what that is BDE, right? Like, it's just like, I know I got this spot. This is me right here. Like, and there is a lot to that in terms of, especially when you're stepping into a spot as a rookie and nobody saw you pulling up like that, right? And we all thought Daniel Brunskill was the incumbent, and it was just like, that's set and forget. Now right. Daniel Brunskill is fighting for his life as center, and Spencer Burford has been the one guy that does not come off the field for anybody at this point, not at one point. So Burford is definitely the guy that now we're like looking at like, man, you're going to be a rookie. And as much as we talk about Kyle not trusting rookies, or you need to get into the circle of trust, like meet the parents, Burford's in, it sounds like. And it seems like I don't see any other guy or any other like person that could take this spot. And that's good. That part. You're going to go through your bumps and bruises. That's fine. But when the coach shows that much, confidence in you, how can you not feel like, hey, I had a mistake here, I got a mistake here, but the coach keeps going back to you. Like, there's guys, Aaron Banks comes in and out, Brunskill, Brendel, they come in and out. It feels like now we've got 3 spots on this offensive line sewn up. And that feels good right now at this point, at least from a name standpoint. And for Trey. Trey's got to get this figured out pretty quickly. Like, there's a game Friday. There's like another game on like Thursday. Like, they play 3 games in 12 days. And I get it. They're not going to be playing anybody probably that second game. That second game is not going to be anybody at this point. I think they're going to give everybody time off. But they've got to get this figured out pretty quickly. It's nice to know that there's 3 guys that are at least sewn up and done. Even if I think that there might be 4, but you never know with Kyle. Like, I think it's Aaron Banks is there. Like, I think that's his job.
And speaking of one of the three, Mike McGlinchey got reinserted, and he had a pretty good practice today, and he
Good.
got a couple wins on Nick Bosa. I swear, I was like, look at Mike. Mike got 2 wins back to back. Look at Big Mike over here. Look at the redemption arc on that guy. As I swear, like Nick Bosa read my tweets or something, and just he got Mike pretty good.
Well,
But
that happened to
something
me. That happened to me at practice too. Offensive line is protecting, the defensive line is, and they were like, "Oh yeah, like what are you doing?" Like
yeah,
looking
like,
at what I did.
show
Like,
you.
Oh yeah. It's almost the same thing. Like when Croc pulls up and we're like, "Hey, TDP's not playing that well, man. I don't know if he's gonna be all right." And he's
And
like,
he goes
looking
on
at
this
us like,
tear for 3 days.
he's
after
like,
that.
looks good to me, man. So maybe we should just shut up and stop tweeting during practice.
But also too, it wasn't just Mike. You know how good of a blocker George Kittle is. He just came flying off the line of scrimmage, and George was just doing this little like angle block, and you could hear how hard Bosa hit Kittle, and like I think Kittle was almost got knocked back a little bit, like whoa, like I don't know what happened to Nick. He turned it up. He was going crazy. So that was fun to watch. But I will say I won't be surprised if we don't see Mike McGlinchey. He was kind of favoring his leg a little bit towards the end of practice. And then he kind of, I think I don't know if it was him or someone else, but felt like he kind of took himself out. So I don't know what that would indicate, but I still – judging his body language and kind of watching him, it does still feel like he's feeling the leg. So my biggest thing for Mike is take your time, man. Yeah. Like take your time getting back.
Get him to week 1. Get him to week 1.
Get him to week 1. Same thing as Charvarius Ward. Put him on the shelf. I've seen enough from Mike that he looks good at it.
List the guys. List them. Trent, Mike, Charvarius, Emmanuel, Fred, Nick, guys that we don't need to see.
We don't need to see
from.
Juice.
Nope, no use check, no Mitchell.
We really don't need to see Ayuk or Debo.
Either. Like if you didn't play any of those guys,
just put them away. Just put them
away. Like put them in a hyperbolic chamber. Put them in like a jacuzzi suit, whatever it is. Like I understand the importance of reps, and I know. And here's the one guy that I won't say that needs to be put away. Trey Lance needs to see these reps. He needs to see these reps, and he needs to see defenses. He needs to see it. So Trey Lance is not in this conversation. I am talking about known commodities, guys that you know for a fact will perform. So Trey Lance isn't in this because he's not a known commodity. Guys, unfortunately, I don't want to be that guy, but he's not a known commodity. He does need a little something. So, yeah.
Shout out 49ers First Takes. He says, thanks for all your coverage, you guys, and Rohan, too. Props for all you guys do. Props to all you guys. Shout out to all the squad out there for following us on this journey. It's always fun that we're not just tweeting into the abyss too, or having these streams and talking to no one. So again, we appreciate all of you guys for tapping in and doing all that good stuff.
Brad, real quick,
again, we don't have no one without them.
Of course, for sure. Brad, real quick, I see people asking about jacuzzi suit. I'm a big Simpsons guy. There is a episode where Milhouse becomes Fallout Boy and he buys his mom a jacuzzi suit. She's like laying on the couch. He's like, I'm in a jacuzzi suit. I can't hear you. Sorry. So that's the nerd in me coming out. Shout out to 49ers First Takes. Subscribe to his channel. I'll be on there a little bit later. If you guys want to hear me rant and rave a little bit more about trading camp, but shout out to him, man. Fellow East Coaster. So yeah, just tap in with him, guys, as well.
Absolutely. What are some of your takeaways from training camp since you had been there?
The running back room improved drastically while I was there. The defense is as advertised. I think we know that. The one thing that I'm going to say, and I think I want you to talk me off the ledge a little bit, because I was the one yelling for Julio Jones. And everyone assumed, oh, well, you just want Julio Jones because you want, a big name. No. It's depth. It's guys that you can trust and guys that have been proven. Outside of Ayuk and Samuel, Juwan Jennings has underwhelmed me this camp, unfortunately. just this camp. Doesn't mean that he won't take that into the season. Ray-Ray McCloud is an unknown. He's been fine during camp. Danny Gray's had days where he's been a ghost and days where he's been the ghost running past people. Talk to me off the ledge of this wide receiver depth, because if God forbid there's an injury to Debo, Ayuk, and you're out there with Ray and Danny Gray and Juwan Jennings, what does this look like for the kid? This has always been my thing. Oh, Julio's washed. We have Juwan Jennings. I'm not telling you that I wanted Julio to be Julio wide receiver 1 from Atlanta. I am telling you that I wanted Julio to be there to run a certain
like
amount
Mohamed
of routes.
Sanu of last year almost.
It's like what? It's like, oh my! All right, so look, this fan base is really funny. Mohamed Sanu gets signed. Travis Benjamin runs meaningful routes, but Julio Jones is where we draw the line.
He brought up Travis Benjamin.
Yeah, no. like Julio Jones is like, well, you know what? He's washed. I don't want him. But you guys tolerated Travis Benjamin, Mohamed Sanu, River Craycraft at times. I am trying to avoid those situations.
All right, Jason, let me walk you off the ledge. Tay Martin, baby. No, I'm just messing with you.
Christ, man, what are we even doing here? Travis Benjamin just seemed out of place. Jason, he the first pass that Trey Lance ever threw, I think in his first start was to Travis Benjamin.
And it was a pick because he wasn't.
It was a pick because that man's not tall enough. Good God. Look, how much of this has to do with the fact that Julio Jones is my favorite football player in the world?
It has a lot to do with the fact.
It does. It absolutely does. But at the same time, look, the thing I'm preaching about is wide receiver depth. That's it. Trusted wide receiver depth. If God forbid something happens to one of these guys, Antonio Brown, hey man, look, what I say about AB is stop sleeping on that man's rap music. When he does this and he does this, hey, Brad, when he tells you to put that shit on, what are you talking about, man? I listened to it at the airport and I was like, hey, this isn't terrible. I did. I listened to the whole album and I was like, hey, this isn't terrible. But look, wide receiver depth is something that I need you to talk me down from. Like, don't let me overreact.
I will definitely talk about the wide receiver depth and not the AB propaganda that's being spun here.
I like it. I like you guys.
So we do know that Juwan Jennings has had a bit of a down camp. He hasn't, really kind of taken those steps forward. I think like a lot of, including me, I thought Juwan Jennings was going to take some steps forward. He hasn't been bad. He got a couple more catches today. Feels like he's starting to find a little bit more of a rhythm. He had a couple catches today, actually, from Trey Lance and others. Ray is someone that continues to flash for me. I like Ray. I really do. Obviously, we need to see more volume out of Ray, but he continues to show when he gets targeted. Like he had another really strong catch over the middle where he really had to go and extend and go snag it, and he got it. He continues to show that he's more of just a gadget guy. He is showing that he is capable of making good catches across the middle in contested situations that you want to see, especially Kyle Shanahan, like when he wants to see these wide receivers working over the middle. So Ray is a guy that I feel much better about. Danny Gray, he has the speed. The speed is there. That is not the question. We are noticing that he's not totally a hands catcher, but he's still able to catch the ball. I don't think he's just like, a bad catcher of the football. He's still able to make plays. He just has kind of a tendency to trap the ball against his chest. But for the most part, I feel okay. I mean, obviously you lose Debo Samuel, you use Brandon Ayuk. Well, you're smashing the panic button no matter what. But I think that I like the depth as they are to be depth. If we're looking at them as starters, Juwan hasn't really gotten the separation that you would hope to see in kind of one-on-one situations. He definitely kind of boxing out guys right now. I like what I see from Ray. Danny Gray has a ton of potential. So we'll see. And Malik Turner continues to be in the mix for that 6 wide receiver spot. But Tay Martin's a guy that's quietly getting more involved. He had 2 catches today. He looked nice. So we'll see. But again, if Brandon Ayuk goes down and Debo goes down, all hell's breaking loose.
Yeah, and Anthony Alvaro makes a good point. T.Y. Hilton's still sitting out there. That's somebody who, again, in limited snaps, again, when we bring up veteran wide receivers, we're not telling you to bring them in to step into whatever role that they were in during their prime. And, the Julio Jones thing, Julio Jones is going to probably catch 12 touchdowns this season after you said all that stuff about him not scoring touchdowns, after you said that he was washed. He gets to play with the best quarterback he's ever played with. Everybody's looking at Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. The only thing that I would ask Julio to do is please find a different number than 85. That shit is gross. It looks so bad. I don't like it. It doesn't look good at all. Please give that man number 2, because that number 2 with the Titans was icy. But if it does come down
like
to that,
number 11 for Julio.
11's good. Like, give it to him, But I think if you took away most teams' number 1 and 2 guys, it wouldn't look very good. So maybe I'm, maybe I'm being overly worried, things like that. I try to be level-headed, but at the same time, Ayuk's missed games, Debo's missed games. That's a little bit what I'm worried about, because if, God forbid, both of them go down at the same time, then you're really looking at like being George Kittle being the guy that you really need to focus all of your passing to, and just hope that other guys can contribute solidly. And I don't know if I'm as confident in those guys, even though Jawan Jennings had a stellar year last year, but he's not right now taking the steps that most of us thought he would in camp. And Danny Gray can get open if Kyle Shanahan schemes him open right now. And a lot of the concerns we had with Gray in college are, can he beat press man in college? Can he beat guys who are like locked up and hip to hip? But if Kyle moves him in motion, throws him a tunnel screen, gets him like, some blocking, things like that, Danny Gray can be a factor. So maybe I'm overblowing it. This is why I wanted you to talk me down from it. But yeah, that's my concern with the wide receiver.
I'm just going to go ahead and say Debo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk are going to have career years, and that's all we got to worry about.
They're going to play 17 games. So. They're going to play 17 games.
So
they're going to play 17 games. Nothing to worry about. Yeah, that's it. 100%. 100%.
I do want to talk about this comment from Anthony. He says, I'm blitzing Trey and zone blitzing him to see if he can beat teams from the pocket. We actually got a really good rep today where D'Amico Ryans sent the house. He completely overloaded, brought double A gap pressure. I counted at least 7 guys going after Trey, and they got through. And Trey, and this is like the Anthony Lynn, I feel like, coming out that we're starting to see. Double A gap pressure instantly goes to Trey Sermon in the flat. Or I think it's actually Kyle Juszczyk as just a leak out to get the ball out. So yeah, you could do that, but they're already accounting for this. I think they also understand that defenses are going to do this to Trey Lance. They are going to see how he responds under pressure, and it does look like the 49ers offense is already building outlets for Trey Lance to go with the football when this happens. So, like I said, D'Amico brought the house. He saw it, read it right away, and he had an outlet for it, and he hit Kyle Juszczyk in the flat. But again, it's the process. It wasn't a flashy play, but the process of it was really nice. And so I like what I'm seeing in regards to kind of bring the conversation back to like Trey and how everything's looking. You're starting to see I think what we saw in the beginning of camp was installing just straight up base concepts and like drilling base concepts on a particular day, not like mixing them all in, just attacking certain base concepts. Now they're like building on top of those concepts. And now we're starting to see more of the zone read. We're starting to see more checkdowns to running backs and things like that, but as a function of the scheme. So, hey, I think defenses are going to think they have an answer for Trey Lance, but he's doing pretty good so far in practice.
I can't wait for week 1 when Trey Lance takes his first shotgun snap and he gets there and he's like, wait, it's a second. It's 2 seconds. No one's in my face. Oh, wait, that guy's wide open. Oh, wait, I can throw the ball. Like,
He had some good protection today again.
That's good. And I don't want to like use this as some sort of excuse, but how do you not like there are guys with worse defenses. Mac Jones is struggling against a Patriots defense that is nowhere near the 49ers defense. Justin Fields is struggling with his own defense. Zach Wilson has been low-key outplayed by Joe Flacco. Like, these are the things that you need to talk about when it comes to training camp right now at this point. Right now,
reports across the league that everyone's struggling in training camp, right?
I mean, Daniel Jones can't even hit a guy on an out, like right there, like in MetLife Stadium.
Struggling out there in Broncos country. What are we doing, man?
I mean, what are we even running out there, man? Jason's in shambles over the Yankees, still the best team in the American League and record. Stop it. And the Rockies are 28.5 games in the NL West. Stop it, man. Well, everybody relax. All right, look. Anyway, back to football. Right now, this guy is facing the best team that he can face ever. He's not going to face a defense like this. Who are the defenses that you would put over the 49ers right now at this point? It ain't the Rams. It ain't, I don't know, like the Bills. I don't know. Like, he's not going to face those guys. So, again, and the defense knows what they're running. They're running very basic stuff. They're not going to run install on any of us, like while we're there at training camp. And I know that Mike McGlinchey said install was done after a certain day. When? I don't know. Brad. I think he's lying, man. If you ask me, I think he's lying. Like, at this point, I think he's lying.
His definition of install could be a lot different of ours. But again, like, we're starting to see more play action out of Trey Lance. I think
all of a sudden his zone read that was never there. The 8 days I was there.
There's like, a plan. Install could be different than actual on-field execution. However, we are starting to see again, Trey Lance is, I think, one of his best attributes is play action.
Look at that.
Look at you. I can see you now.
Oh, yeah. Well, the sun finally went down real quick. But
I think one of Trey Lance's best attributes is working off of play action, whether it's boot or just standard play action. It feels like a rhythm. Like, he gets into this rhythm when he's in play action, and he had an absolute whip to Brandon Ayuk against the left sideline. It was one of those passes where, I think we had another one at a practice that we were at, but you know how you're in a perfect line of where the pass is being thrown to? Like, you get to look right down the barrel. It's like, if it didn't go to Ayuk, it was going to me. It's kind of what it looked like. And you just got to see him execute this play action, and he just whipped the ball. Like, again, if you're talking mechanically, like from a functional mechanic standpoint, you're probably like, oh, that's not that great. But he gets into this rhythm where he's like, I know how to get the ball from here to there, and this is how I'm going to do it. And he like whipped the ball, and it just came out on a freaking line and hit Ayuk in stride for a freaking dart. Straight up wake up, honey. Trey Lance dart.
And that's the thing, is everyone's caught up in mechanics. And I'm going to keep reiterating this point. Anybody who's ever played pickup basketball has seen the guy with the prettiest form miss 3 jumpers in a row. But you've watched the guy who literally takes the ball and throws it up like this, and it goes in. At times, Patrick Mahomes throws balls with the worst footwork, arm slot, whatever. I'm not comparing Trey Lance to Patrick Mahomes, but results matter. I don't care how you got it there. I don't care how you win. Get it there. And that's really what people are hung up on. Well, he doesn't get the ball out with this amount of time. Who cares? If the ball that he throws is caught by the guy and run for a long amount or down the field, I don't care how you get it there. Literally, some of the best quarterbacks in the league don't have the prettiest motion. Some of the best quarterbacks who have ever played don't have the best motion. Guess what? They won. And that's the beauty of quarterback, wide receiver. Some wide receivers win with routes and a footwork off the release. Some guys win at the catch point. Win. It doesn't matter how you win.
Renfro.
Right. Hunter Renfro. Right? Hunter Renfro. Perfect. Right? Slot guy.
Looks like he
guy
should be
who-
bagging groceries right now.
A guy who did your taxes at H&R Block. Literally. That's what he looks like. Literally, at this guy.
You're
And
coming
yet,
after the tax agents again, Jason. Watch
and
out.
yet, and no, look, I'm not, but I'm just saying, look, this guy understands how to get himself open. Who cares how you get open? Justin Jefferson runs some of the finest routes I've ever seen. That gets him open. Mike Evans wins at the catch point, and he catches the ball. Devontae Adams wins with release and footwork. Who cares how you win? Just win and get it done. That's it. So I think people are too hung up in what they are, the preconceived notion of, well, the quarterback has to win from the pocket and throw the ball at this angle. Who cares? Lamar Jackson wins. You know how he wins? By being dominant. I don't care how your arm angle looks. I don't care if you won from the pocket. Win the game, make plays happen, and that's what you'll really find. Stop being hung up on all that. That's like my little rant on it before we get over all that.
Yeah, and I think that's I think a message for the 49ers coaches in a sense. Like, I think that they've been trying to just get Trey Lance's mechanics to be perfect, which I understand.
What did H&R do to me? H&R hooked me up, actually. They gave me some write-offs and stuff. So, like, real quick, shout out H&R Block.
I think they're trying to refine Trey Lance, but at a certain point, you kind of got to let Trey cook a little bit and do what he's comfortable with. And I think they're finding that balance. And again, with confidence, I think you're going to see more of that. And the last 2 days, we've seen that confidence starting to come out from Trey Lance. So I'm pleasantly intrigued. I feel like after we were there, like 11, 10 days, whatever it was, you saw the progression. And just like we wanted to see progression in training camp, it's going to be the same thing in season. It's going to look dramatically different week 1 than it does to week 18. And that's what we're going to be focused on. I wanted to talk to this one really quick from 49ers Throwback. Says Javon Kinlaw looks massive. He's going to be good. He's creating havoc on the interior. I'm really liking what I see out of Javon. I'm really excited about that.
And I was on Croc Show earlier today, and he said he's replacing a guy who had the #1 run block win rate of all like defensive guys on the inside. He doesn't need to be that. He needs to be that presence that he was in those small games.
DJ Jones?
Yeah, #1 out of everybody. He stopped the run better than everyone. That's a number that you can look up. You can go look that up. But he doesn't need to be that. He needs to be that guy that he was in the limited time that we saw him. The Giants game, he showed it. Many times during the season, he showed it. What Javon Kinlaw's goal should be is just play 17 games. And I think the results will bear themselves out as they should. And him next to Eric Armstead is such a tandem. If Javon Kinlaw can just be healthy and just be himself. That's all he needs to do is be himself. We're not asking for anything more than that. You don't have to duplicate the guy before you, none of that. Don't set those expectations for him. Let's start with 17 games. 17 games and have him on the field. That's all you need. And I think you're going to be fine. If you get those two edge guys, one guy opposite of Bosa, whoever that is, whether that's Ebukam, whether that's Torrey, whether that's Drake Jackson, whoever's going to come in and fill in on that other side, you need to keep Kinlaw upright for 17 games. That's it. I'm not looking for numbers. Again, when people ask me numbers about Trey, numbers about this team, that's not going to explain where this team is going forward. It's not. It's not going to explain to me where they are with their progress. And if Javon Kinlaw just plays all the games this year, doesn't have any injuries, he's going to be fine. And I think he's going to be very impactful. That's all.
And I saw a perfect example today of what I need from Javon Kinlaw. I don't even need stats from Javon Kinlaw. If you can get me Javon Kinlaw occupying 2 offensive linemen, the things that the 49ers defense will be able to do if they can do just that, that means you have another defender running free. That means you have Fred Warner going wherever the hell he wants without another offensive lineman getting to the second level, or Azeez Al-Shaair or Drake Greenlaw, whoever it is. If Javon Kinlaw can occupy 2, that's what you want. And I saw a little glimpse of that today. Remember the push pull, Jason? When I think I first met you in Mobile, Alabama, we executed the little push pull technique.
No. We didn't execute it. You almost threw me through a window. Like, we didn't execute
I was
anything.
trying to show you.
You were trying to show me, but your big
functionally.
hands grabbed me, and I never felt more threatened in my life. No, tell the whole story. So basically, Brad and I, while everyone else went to go party in Mobile, I wanted to learn the intricacies of offensive
Yes, that's
line.
what you wanted to do.
I did. I wanted to learn the intricacies of O-line. Me and Brad hit it off immediately with our complaining that the fact that Terry McLaurin was not a 49er for some reason. And that's where we kind of like met in the middle at that point. Like Brad knew me from social media. I knew him from social media. Brad didn't know if I was really like how I am on social media. When we got a chance to meet, he was like, okay, this guy's kind of like how I thought it was. And then we started talking football. But
exactly what I thought.
We started talking about the intricacies of that. So go for it. I asked him, okay, what are some of the things that you should be looking for? He's like, all right, be the defensive guy and then go for it. You tell the rest of the story. Go for it.
Yeah, so essentially you're working the push-pull technique. You're trying to get the offensive lineman so worried about getting bull rushed that he's already trying to anchor and push against you. So you create the leverage of the push, but when he starts pushing against you, you pull him. So he's basically pulling himself to the ground. And so that's the technique that we executed. And I found out how shockingly light you were. And
shockingly light? What are you talking about? A God's green earth. I've been the same height since you met me. How dare you act like you didn't know how much you out? Like, this man grabbed my shirt and I thought I was gonna go through the window of the Airbnb. Like,
yeah,
it was that, like,
oh my God, fun. Like, why couldn't I do this back in my day? No, but you got a little bit of that from Javon Kinlaw today against Aaron Banks. He hit him with a straight push pull. He straight up came at him with a bull rush. Aaron Banks instantly pushed against it. Javon did one of these. Banks goes flat, and then you have to get Trent Williams crash down on Javon to make sure that Javon doesn't squeak by through the B gap. And it doesn't show up on the stat sheet. That is not going to show up on a tweet of like Javon got a sack, Javon got a tackle for loss, got a PBU, but that is impactful. And from the interior of the defensive line, if Javon Kinlaw can do those types of things where one guy can't stop him and they have to use two, whether it's a lineman, a backer, lineman, tight end, doesn't matter. If they're using two guys, that means one guy is getting taken away from Nick Bosa, and interior pressure is the quickest way to disrupt the play. So that puts an offense in conflict because they're like, do we stop Nick Bosa or do we stop Javon Kinlaw? Because if we let Javon Kinlaw, we're not even having a chance to get a playoff. So you put them in conflict with a guy like Javon Kinlaw. He is going to change the entire look of the defense. So if you can get that type of look from him for 17 games, doesn't even have to be stat driven. If he can just make an impact like that, the 49ers defense is going to be nasty.
Not worried at all about this 49ers defense. And like, it's funny when you get to the Senior Bowl, like in Mobile, like unfortunately Brad wasn't there, but I learned so much about the intricacies of those little things, right? Like I talked to someone who used to play for the Seattle Seahawks. We had a long discussion about how he was a defensive lineman and how he teaches his offensive linemen to wait for the first sort of contact. Like, don't press, don't put your arms out first. Like, don't guess first. Let him come at you, and then you can dictate the motion. There are so many things that are intricate and the nuance of like how this is played. That's why I feel like the last 2 years I've filled my brain up with more football knowledge, and I've left myself with a knowledge of I don't want to judge reps solely on, oh, well, this guy got beat. Well, what did they do? What was this guy doing? What he should have been doing? It's so much more. And that's why offensive linemen are usually the smartest guys on the field most of the time. They're the ones who have to understand protection. They're the ones who have to understand what's the drop for the quarterback, what's the route, like all that stuff. Like, what are the routes? What do I need to protect for? Who's the quarterback behind me? Those are the hardest parts. And that's why, like, I get a little perturbed. That's a nice word. You like that, right? When it comes to perturbed. When it comes to people posting one clip, well, this guy got beat on this rep. Do you know what the concept was? Do you know what that person was supposed to be doing? And that's part of learning more and more. That's what makes this game so beautiful to all of us, is understanding all of these little things, because there are so many little things. Like when people talk about game of inches, it is game of inches. It is game of like one or two little things that can stop a play from either being like a gain, or like a touchdown, or like a loss. Like those are the type of things that I've learned like a little bit more. And Brad is one of those people that helps me with that.
I think Spencer Burford talked a lot about that. Again, about how literally 2 or 3 inches can change your landing spot on a particular run play or something like that. Bruce says, so according to Bosa, we may have the best defense in the league this year. Awesome. Our O-line concerns me, not just at quarterback, but center as well as the line.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, the 49ers are going to have a top 5 defense at worst if they're healthy. I mean, that is something that I am confident I can look this camera right in the face and say, Eric Armstead will be back week 1. Both cornerbacks are going to be back week 1. Eric Armstead hasn't been there the entire training camp, and his defensive line has been destroying everything. There are offensive lines much worse than the 49ers offensive line that are going to go through hell trying to stop. God help the Chicago Bears offensive line week 1. God help them. Seriously, like you better pray to Jesus, Allah, whoever it is that you pray to. You're in trouble. You're in trouble right now at this point, because this is Eric Armstead is going to be there now. Bosa is going to be there. Ebukam is going to be playing. Like Kinlaw is going to be there. They had problems last year, and this year, I don't want to get too hyperbole, but like they're better, I think, in some ways, in many ways. Keep Eric Armstead inside. Keep Nick Bosa outside, and I mean where he's going to always be, but put somebody on the other side. Ebukam came on at the end of the year. The rotation, Amenahu's growing. Drake Jackson's here. It isn't crazy to say that this line will be better. It isn't.
Yeah, the defense is going to go crazy, and it's going to be anchored by that defensive line unit. Everything else is going to happen behind it. What's with Armstead? Heard he was injured. He's dealing with a little knee sprain, but he's fine. He's been off to the side, working, running,
week 1.
all that good stuff. Yeah,
get him to week 1.
Get him to week 1, doing all that good stuff. So, Jason, anything else that you want to end our recap on? The 49ers are dropping their brick by brick first one of the year.
I saw it. It was up there. I just got the noti while I was on with you. No, yeah. Brad.
Anything else that we can wrap up with for this year's training camp? That is it for you and I at training camp. What was your overall takeaway?
It's always fun to do this, and it's always fun to hang out with you, and and talk ball with you, man. And I mean that like not even like in a funny way in any way. It's always fun. Like I can't get away from telling people how much like how we argue online, and I have to tell myself this sometimes too. We're talking football. It's supposed to be fun. This is the most fun time of the year. This is when every single team is optimistic. There's a Jaguars fan out there thinks that we're going all the way. There's a Texans fan out there that says, you know what, this team is a Super Bowl contender. And you know what? Maybe they'll be proven wrong at the end of the year. But that's the beauty of training camp. That's the beauty of pads popping and getting everything started. It's a fresh start for everybody. I mean, hell, Hard Knocks started yesterday. And we got people that are like, man, the Lions culture is changing. Even though Dan Campbell gave one of the wildest speeches, something about one ass cheek and 3 toes. I was like, fam, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I feel you. I feel the energy. But you hear Jamal Williams, who goes from a winning organization from the Packers to the Lions, and you hear him talk that way about how much he loves his guys. This is a fun time right now for everybody. And football is always supposed to be fun. Remember that, guys. It's always supposed to be, we're using this as entertainment. It should never be anything more than that. It should never get serious to the point where people dislike watching football or upset after the game. Sure, we get a little upset that they lose, but this is fun. And that's what I've taken away from all of this. I wouldn't trade the training camp on any of this portion, hanging out with you guys, for anything, man. And that's something that every year from now until whenever it is that I pass away, I want to do every single year.
Yeah, man, it's been a blast. Getting able to get together with all the boys and just break down 49ers football, man. It's really fun. Like it gives you a little bit more perspective too. Once you kind of get away from being online all the time, you kind of get in person and you realize,
Brad,
like,
how
all
cool
right,
is it?
man.
All right, how cool is it this, right? We go to lunch, we're sitting at a table. There's KP, there's Croc, there's Brian Peacock, there's you, there's Jordan Elliott, there's me, and we're just sitting there eating a burger,
That was
having our
pretty
lunch,
cool.
but we're talking ball. Like how
Yeah.
cool is that, bro? Like how cool is that? Like it's not something that I want to like overemphasize, but it's something that again, we're talking about a kid's sport at the end of the day, man. Like we are, and this is fun. That's it, bro. Like it should be fun. Like we should be having fun. Yes, I've even partaked in the dunking on people, like me. Yeah, I'm petty like that though. But at the same time, this is supposed to be fun. Like it should be fun. I should tell myself that more. I'm telling you guys that, but I should talk to myself more and say that.
It's a bit of a self-love reflection as well. But also to and speaking of fun, this year's going to be fun, man. Like 2020, 2022 49ers football is going to be a blast. I mean, again, Jason and I were at training camp. This is our second year in a row. So we kind of we're able to compare and contrast from what last year was. And again, this defensive stuff that we keep talking about, it's real. And if you go back to last year and the success that the 49ers had getting into the NFC Championship, you got to shout out the defense, man. The defense carried and allowed the offense to get up to speed. Now they're built even better, even deeper, even stronger at each line of defense to be able to do just that. So, regardless of what's going on with the offense or how long it takes them to get up to speed, it's going to be a fun year overall, man, and it's going to be a blast. And I'm looking forward to it. I know we're going to get out to some games together and do all that good stuff, but all I can say is based on kind of recapping all these days of training camp is that we're in for a fun year. It might not
Hell yeah.
be, it's going to be a roller coaster ride, but hey,
Bumps
that's
and
would have won
bumps
in
and
any other way.
bruises.
Would
Bumps
have
and
won in
bruises.
any other. We're going to be coming out scarred, torn up, but hey, that's how championships are won, and that's what we're looking for. We're not looking for the easy road. We're looking for whatever it takes, brick by brick, right? As they do say. But I think that's a good time to end it now. Make sure you guys go watch the Brick by Brick that's dropping right now by the 49ers. They always put out fire content. Make sure you tap into that. Jason, before we get out of here, tell the good people where to find more of your content. And are you doing another show after this?
I am. I'm gonna be on 49ers First Takes tonight. Make sure that you
Man's
follow me.
grinding.
Make sure you follow me here on Twitter. Also, if you guys are interested in playing against the fantasy football GOAT, Underdog Sports, sign up with your deposit. Make sure you use the code word and promo code Aponte. I've got a draft that's going on. Once we fill up, we're going to run a full best ball draft. So double your deposit up to $100. Make sure you use that promo code Aponte if you want to brag on Twitter like, yo, you know what? I beat Aponte at football. You probably won't because I'm that nice, like, but you have your chance to do that. But yeah, man, shout out to you, Brad. Appreciate you again. And before I go, thank you again for the insight that you give, not only on here, but to me, like as we speak, like there's plenty of times where I'll look to you like, hey, what did you see there? And that's the good thing about being there with people that you trust with their knowledge and in using you to understand many of the intricacies that I don't understand. And it's a beautiful thing to have a resource like that. Not only a resource like that, I'm about to get sappy, a beautiful friend like you, Brad.
Oh, Jason, I love you, man. It's been a blast. Always, whenever we link, we have a great freaking time, man. I appreciate that, and the sentiment is returned just to you, likewise, man. It's been a blast, especially when we bounce things off. I'm like, Jason, I missed that. What did you see? And you're like,
No. What was the
this is what
joke?
happened.
What was the joke? Someone caught that pass. Who did he catch it on? Everybody just looked at each other like, we're not gonna say his name right here, but
Yeah,
we're all like,
the man who must not be named.
same
Sir
guy.
Yeah. So it's been a blast, man. We'll do it again. And we're going to keep the content going throughout the year. So shout out to all the squad, always tapping in with us, supporting the content. You already know the vibes. Subscribe to both channels, hit the like button on both, and you already know, turn those noties on. But again, appreciate everyone that's it for us tonight. We're out of here. Peace. I got to hit that.